From the dojo to the octagon, this is Budocast, your source for the latest in martial arts news, culture, and competition. From breaking fight results to evolving techniques, we cover it all. Let's get into it. So welcome to this deep dive where we are unpacking what was honestly an unbelievably dense and frankly brutal weekend in combat sports.
Yeah, brutal is definitely the right word for it.
I mean, we're looking at the weekend of May 22nd to the 24th, 2026. And we have a huge stack of sources on the desk today. We're talking LFA 233 in New York, one championship over in Bangkok, PFL Brussels, the PFL MENA weigh-ins in Dubai, and even the flow grappling circuit. And the mission for this deep dive is really to look at the sheer velocity of the sport right now.
Right, the velocity of change. It's just staggering.
Yeah, exactly. The old guard is just being systematically replaced by these young, undefeated prospects. The stakes are completely life-changing right now, and we're seeing it happen in real time.
We really are. I mean, when you look at the raw data from this single weekend, the overarching theme is just the absolute zero-tolerance policy the sport has for degradation. The turnover rate is accelerating at just an unprecedented clip.
It's moving so fast.
It is. Like, we are watching the margins between complete local obscurity and, global life-changing superstardom shrink to literally mere fractions of a second.
Which is terrifying, if you think about it.
Oh, absolutely. The consequences of a single misread in the cage or even a single miscalculation during a weight cut, they've never carried a higher penalty than they do right now.
Well, let's look at that fraction of a second right now, because I want to start at the absolute genesis of a fighter's professional journey.
The debut.
Yeah, exactly. The pro debut.
Yeah.
Because before you get the massive checks, before the global broadcast deals, you have to survive your debut. Yeah. And I want to look at how exactly 44 seconds can just permanently alter a career trajectory.
Oh, LFA 233.
Yeah, LFA 233. We were at the Seneca Allegheny Event Center in upstate New York. The prelims kick off with this lightweight matchup between Clayton Lee and Easton Edmond. Both guys are 25 years old, both walking in with flawless, undefeated amateur records.
And finishing everyone, too.
Right. Edmond had literally finished all 5 of his amateur opponents with strikes. Lee had a 4-fight finishing streak himself. So, I mean, the matchmaking here is clearly designed to be just a violent collision, but nobody anticipated a 44-second execution.
And execution really is the entirely appropriate word when you break down the biomechanics of what Clayton Lee actually did there.
Yeah, walk me through that, because it looked insane on the footage.
So if you slow down the sequence from the sources, it's a staggering display of exploiting an opponent's kinetic energy against them. Edmond is a power puncher, right?
Right. He relies heavily on forward momentum.
Exactly. So Lee didn't just back away. He stood his ground, slightly changed his vertical level by ducking underneath Edmond's line of sight, and then he just launched this massive overhand lift.
Just threw the absolute kitchen sink at him.
He did, but the catastrophic detail for Edmond was the timing of it. Lee's fist connected exactly at the apex of Edmond's own forward weight transfer, right as Edmond was winding up his own left hand.
Oh, man. I sort of look at this like a head-on car crash. Like, if you hit a stationary wall at 30 miles an hour, that's bad. But if 2 cars hit each other and they're both going 30 miles an hour, the collision force is just catastrophic.
That's a perfect analogy. Edmond was basically providing half the knockout power against his own shin just by stepping forward into the traffic.
Right. He basically knocked himself out with Lee's fist.
Precisely. Because when a fighter transfers their weight forward to plant their feet and throw a power shot, their structural integrity is it's momentarily compromised. Their chin is exposed. Their center of gravity is fully committed.
There's no going back once you step into it.
Exactly. If a strike intercepts that forward motion, the brain absorbs double the concussive force. Edmond's own aggression totally betrayed him there. But the sequence that really underscores Lee's, spatial awareness is what happened immediately next.
The follow-up shot.
Yes. The initial overhand left completely disconnected Edmond's equilibrium. His brain basically just shut down the stabilizing muscles in his legs, and his feet left the canvas. He was literally in a state of free fall.
So he's basically unconscious while standing, while falling.
Exactly. And yet, Lee had the neurological processing speed to track Edmond's falling head and land a second pinpoint right hand while Edmond was suspended in midair.
Wait, really? Midair?
Midair. He hit a moving target that was already unconscious before it even crashed to the mat.
I mean, that is just the exact kind of terrifying precision that goes instantly viral, But I actually want to push back on this idea of the quote-unquote perfect debut.
Okay, how so?
Well, because, yes, Lee gets the 44-second highlight reel. It looks great on Instagram.
Yeah.
But look at the rest of that LFA 233 card. It was a grueling, unforgiving environment for everyone else fighting that night.
It really was a grind of a card.
Yeah. You had Kevin Carrier getting dragged all the way to the late stages of the third round before he finally locked in a guillotine choke. You had Soufiane Kabil pushed to his absolute physical limit, going the full 15 minutes to win a decision. Ed Nelson Santos wins a total bloodbath of a unanimous decision. Richie Miranda defends his main event title in super deep waters.
So you're asking if the quick finish is actually a detriment?
Yeah, exactly. It makes me wonder, does a 44-second viral knockout actually hurt a young prospect in disguise? I think about it like a structural stress test on a bridge.
Right.
If you only drive a golf cart over a bridge for 10 seconds, you have no idea if the concrete is going to crack when a freight train rolls over it. A 44-second fight doesn't test a fighter's lactic acid threshold.
It doesn't test their cardio at all.
No, it doesn't test their ability to panic breathe when a heavy grappler is, crushing their diaphragm in round two. Do these flash KOs actually stunt their development?
That is a phenomenal analogy, honestly. And it is the central anxiety of literally every striking coach in mixed martial arts. Hype is incredibly valuable currency, right?
Oh, for sure. It pays the bills.
It gets you sponsors, it gets you attention from major promotions, and it creates a very real aura of intimidation. Your next opponent will watch that 44-second clip 100 times in their camp.
Just second-guessing every time they want to move forward.
Exactly, second-guessing their own pressure. But developmentally, you are entirely correct. The cage is a laboratory for physical and psychological resilience. In round 3, when your forearms are just flooded with lactic acid, your grip strength is failing and your opponent just refuses to go away.
That's where you find out who you really are.
Yes. That is where championship DNA is forged. If a prospect starts to believe their own hype, if they think they possess this magical touch of death, they often neglect their secondary and tertiary skills.
They stop practicing their bottom escapes.
Precisely. They don't drill those escapes with the same urgency. And eventually, they meet an opponent with an iron chin who just absorbs that best shot, smiles, and drags them into the deep ocean.
And we saw the other brutal reality of the sport on that exact same LFA card with Jonathan Piersma.
Oh, man. The weigh-in situation.
Yeah, this is where the physical demands just completely clash with the administrative demands. Piersma fought Diego Bianchini in the co-main event. He put on a brilliant performance and won via TKO in the third round, but the victory was completely hollow.
Because he lost the welterweight title on the scale.
Exactly. He missed weight the day before. He gets his hand raised in the cage, but the belt is gone. It just shows that the fight itself is really only half the battle. If your body fails the physiological stress test of dehydration 24 hours prior, your actual performance is completely compromised.
At least in terms of legacy and championship status, yeah. Weight cutting is, it's essentially sanctioned trauma. We will discuss its devastating effects on tournament formats later, but in Piersma's case, missing weight strips away the professional validation of the victory.
Because he couldn't make the contracted number.
Right. The biomechanical reality of cutting those final few pounds often strains the kidneys and it depletes the cerebrospinal fluid that protects the brain. Fighters push themselves to the absolute brink of organ failure just to make weight.
And he survived the fight, dominated it even, but he still gets penalized heavily.
Exactly. The belt remains vacant, and his bargaining power for his next contract is significantly diminished despite getting a third-round TKO.
It is such a ruthless business. But, speaking of massive contracts and the rewards for absolute perfection, let's look at what happened over in Bangkok.
At Lumpini Stadium.
Yeah, won championships the inner circle. The flyweight MMA bout opening the show featured Viet Anh Do, a 29-year-old representing Auckland MMA and Oliver MMA.
An incredible prospect.
He steps in against South Korea's Kim Jung-kim. Do comes in with 4 fights and 4 finishes. He leaves with 5 fights and 5 finishes. But the mechanism of this finish is what completely blew my mind. He gets a TKO at 2.17 of round 2 via a right push kick. A push kick.
Which is an incredibly rare and honestly technically magnificent finish for modern MMA.
I mean, you never see that.
Almost never. In traditional Muay Thai, the push kick or teep is primarily a defensive framing tool. You use it to manage distance, to push an aggressively advancing opponent off balance or to just rhythmically stab at the midsection.
Just to slowly sap their cardio over a long fight, right?
Exactly. It's the jab of the lower body.
Yeah.
To actually secure a technical knockout outright with a linear push kick implies a catastrophic physiological shutdown of the opponent's internal systems.
Yeah, I'm trying to visualize the anatomy here. Because to drop a professional fighter with a straight push kick to the body, you aren't just winding them. You have to hit something vital.
You have to hit something deeply structural.
So are we looking at like a solar plexus strike that paralyzes the diaphragm? Or did his heel just dig straight into the liver?
Based on the immediate collapse we saw in the broadcast, it is almost certainly one of those two highly localized targets. If the heel of the foot drives upward into the solar plexus beneath the sternum, it traumatizes this massive cluster of nerves.
And you just can't breathe.
The diaphragm forcefully spasms, making it physically impossible for the lungs to draw in oxygen. The brain panics, signaling the body to collapse into a fetal position just to protect the organs.
Oh, wow. And what if it was the liver?
If the toes or the ball of the foot dig deeply into the liver on the right side of the opponent's body, the impact causes a sudden, massive drop in blood pressure.
Like a system override.
Exactly. The vagus nerve fires rapidly, the legs simply lose all structural tension, and the fighter goes down. Either way, for Doan to generate enough concussive, penetrating force from a straight hip extension requires flawless timing.
He had to catch him breathing in, right?
He had to catch Kim exactly as Kim was inhaling or stepping into range, which multiplies the relative force.
And one championship rewarded that flawless execution immediately. A $100,000 contract and a guaranteed spot on their main global roster.
That one kick changed his life.
It totally did.
Right.
His entire financial and professional trajectory shifted in an instant. But, while Do secured that immediate gratification, the rest of the Inner Circle card was this grueling display of tactical warfare.
Mm-hmm.
And the crushing weight of legacy.
You're talking about Freddie Haggerty.
I am. I want to look at Freddie Haggerty. He's 21 years old, out of the Nolsey Academy in London. He fought a 9-minute strawweight Muay Thai bout against a very tough French Thai representative in Jonas Anand.
And he won a grinding, unanimous decision.
He did. But we really have to address the elephant in the stadium here. Freddie is the younger brother of one bantamweight kickboxing world champion, Jonathan Haggerty.
The psychological burden on Freddie Haggerty there is just immense. Jonathan Haggerty is not just a champion. He is one of the most recognizable, dynamic, and technically sophisticated strikers on the planet right now.
Oh, totally. He's a superstar.
His style is this distinct blend of hyper-aggressive forward pressure, devastating elbows, and a swagger that is entirely his own. So when you walk into Lumpini Stadium, which is the absolute mecca of striking.
Carrying that surname on your shorts.
Exactly. The expectations from the crowd and the promoters are suffocating. You are not allowed to be a developing 21-year-old prospect. You're expected to be a fully formed world beater from day one.
See, I look at Freddie's situation, and it goes far beyond just having a famous brother.
Yeah.
It's almost like he is fighting with a permanent handicap.
How do you mean?
Well, every single opponent he faces looks at him and sees a shortcut to superstardom. If a regional fighter beats Jonas Anand, they get a win on their record. But if they beat Freddie Haggerty, they steal a piece of the Haggerty family mystique.
Ah, that's a great point.
Right. I imagine that creates this intense championship gravity where every opponent Freddie faces is putting on the absolute performance of their lives. It's like everyone treats him as the final boss fight of their career.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. It's basically a proxy war. Opponents are fighting the ghost of Jonathan Haggerty's reputation just as much as they are fighting Freddie.
And Anand definitely fought like that.
You saw it in his resistance. Anand didn't fold. But what makes Freddie's performance so vital for his own development is how he managed that 9-minute war.
He didn't just try to knock him out in 10 seconds.
No, he didn't try to be a carbon copy of his brother. He relied heavily on relentless high kicks and this gritty, grinding aggression that forced Anand onto the back foot.
Claiming the family bragging rights, as the broadcast said.
Right, but more importantly, he proved he has the cardiovascular endurance and the fight IQ to solve problems when the viral knockout just doesn't materialize. He embraced the grind.
And the grind was definitely the absolute theme of the atomweight kickboxing war between Viro and Kana.
Oh, what a fight that was.
Viro, the standout from Myanmar, pushed her record to 31-4 by edging out the Japanese slugger Kana via unanimous decision. Now, for those listening, Kana is a former K1 champion. Her nickname is literally the Crusher.
She has terrifying power.
Right. She is known for possessing terrifying one-punch knockout power in her hands. And yet, Vero managed to navigate that danger for the full duration of the fight. How does a fighter neutralize someone with that kind of disproportionate power?
The antidote to overwhelming power is often overwhelming volume and superior spatial geometry.
Spatial geometry, like angles.
Exactly. Kana wants to plant her feet in the pocket and exchange heavy hooks. If you stand stationary in front of her, you are eventually going to be separated from consciousness.
She'll just take your head off.
Vero understood that the key to victory wasn't matching power with power. It was disrupting Kana's ability to set her feet.
Because you can't throw a power punch if your feet aren't planted.
Spot on. Vero used relentless aggression, but it was incredibly calculated. She utilized superior footwork, taking angles outside of Kana's lead foot to ensure Kana was always turning to find her target.
So Kane is constantly pivoting just to face her.
Yes, and when Kana turned, Vero intercepted her with high-volume combinations, 3 or 4 rapid, stinging strikes to the guard or the body, followed by an immediate exit before Kana could even return fire.
Just constantly making her reset.
By maintaining that frantic pace, Vero forced Kana to be defensive. You just cannot throw a fight-ending power shot when you are busy shelling up to defend a 4-punch combination.
It is the death by 1,000 cuts approach.
Yeah.
And it requires unbelievable discipline to not get lured into a brawl. And Vero didn't just win. She essentially fired a warning shot directly at Fajija.
The one women's atomweight kickboxing world champion.
Exactly. She is mapping her exact route to the gold right now. But she wasn't the only one calling their shots on this card. The featherweight kickboxing bout was another masterclass in dismantling a dangerous opponent.
Lu Mengyang.
Yes. China's Lu Mengyang put on an absolute tactical clinic against Gabriel Pereira. He won a unanimous decision, bumped his record up to 36-7, and then immediately grabbed the mic to demand a fight with the featherweight kickboxing world champion, Superbot.
Lu's performance against Pereira is a case study in distance management and rhythmic disruption.
Because Pereira is super chaotic, right?
Highly chaotic. He's a dangerous South American striker who thrives in wild scrambles, and Lu just refused to play that game. He established his range early, utilizing a stiff jab and intercepting teeps to keep Pereira at the very end of his strikes.
Just keeping him at bay.
Right. Every time Pereira tried to build momentum or establish an offensive rhythm, Lu would just smother it with a clinch or break the distance with lateral movement. It was a cerebral, almost surgical dismantling.
And to call out Superbon afterward, who, many consider to be the most technically flawless kickboxer of his generation, that shows an immense level of self-belief.
It really does. Lu's communicating to the matchmakers that he possesses the high-level fight IQ required to challenge a generational talent.
The audacity of these rising contenders is incredible. We are seeing this relentless pressure applied to the established champions across the entire globe. But nowhere was this changing of the guard more violent, more abrupt, or honestly more shocking than what happened under the lights in Belgium at PFL Brussels.
The old guard got run over.
Completely run over. But before we break down the absolute chaos of that European card, we need to make sure we are properly geared up. Before we dive deeper, shout out to our sponsors. First up, Elite Sports, leaders in premium fightwear for BJJ and MMA. Whether you're rolling or striking, they've got gear built to move with you. Check them out at elitesports.com. And if you're a school owner looking to optimize your dojo's performance, you need to check out Lotus by Open Black Belt. It's the ultimate management software for tracking ranks, attendance, and billing. They are currently offering a free trial to our listeners. Streamline your business so you can spend more time on the mats. Visit openblackbelt.com to start your trial today. You can find links for both in the show notes. And if you've got a story, news tip, or question, send it to us at budocast.com. All right, let's get straight to Brussels.
Let's go.
We've talked about debuting prospects and legacy fighters surviving tough decisions, but the main event of PFL Brussels provided a visual that, honestly, I think is going to be replayed for years as the definitive moment and era ended.
Patrick Habirora against Benson Henderson.
Yes, Patrick Habirora, Belgian Bomber. He walks into the cage with a flawless 9-0 record. And standing across from him is Benson "Smooth" Henderson, a man with a 30-13 professional record, a former world champion, a pioneer who has bled in 5-round wars with the absolute greatest lightweights in the history of the sport.
And Habirora knocked him completely unconscious in 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
It was a profoundly sobering moment for anyone who has followed the sport for the last 15 years. Benson Henderson's legacy is built on his unbelievable durability, his grappling scrambles, and his ability to make microscopic reads on his opponent's timing over the course of 25 minutes.
But physiology is ruthless.
It is entirely ruthless. As fighters age, the very first thing thing to degrade is the central nervous system's processing speed.
I just can't react in time.
Exactly. The eyes see the strike coming, but the neurological signal to the muscles to slip or parry arrives a fraction of a millisecond too late.
I really want to focus on the specific weapon Habirora used, because it wasn't just a wild brawl where he closed his eyes and swung. It was a leaping left hook.
A gazelle punch, yeah.
Can you break down the mechanics of why that specific strike is such a nightmare for an aging veteran to deal with? Because it seems like an incredibly high-risk maneuver to launch your whole body off the canvas like that against a seasoned counterstriker.
It is high risk, but the leaping left hook is devastating because it completely bypasses the standard defensive algorithms a veteran like Henderson relies on.
What do you mean by algorithms?
Well, usually a fighter can gauge distance based on their opponent's footwork. If you step into range, there is a recognizable tempo. A 1-2 combination has a predictable rhythm.
Right. A veteran can read the shoulders, read the hips.
Exactly. But a leaping hook closes the distance instantaneously.
Yeah.
Habirora generated explosive power by driving his lead foot into the canvas, launching his entire body mass forward and upward simultaneously.
So he's literally flying at him.
While airborne, he torqued his hips and core, transferring all of that kinetic energy through his shoulder and right into his fist. The strike lands with the combined force of rotational mechanics and horizontal velocity.
Which is just an insane amount of force.
For Henderson, whose defensive micro-reads are calibrated for traditional boxing entries, the sheer explosive speed of a 9-0 prospect bypassing the neutral zone entirely, it was just a problem his reflexes could no longer solve.
It is genuinely sad to watch a legend fall that quickly. Henderson's corner looked completely stunned. And Habirora now has 8 finishes in 9 professional fights. It really forces us to look at the matchmaking ecosystem.
The ethics of it, you mean?
Yeah. Is putting a veteran with over 40 brutal fights under his belt against the hyper-athletic, undefeated 9-0 prospect a respectful passing of the torch? Or is it promotional malpractice? Like the old guard is just being fed to the new guard to build their highlight reels.
That is the grim reality of the combat sports economy. A promotion's most valuable asset is a young, marketable, undefeated star.
Because they can build a future around them.
Right, but for that star to gain mainstream credibility, they need a recognizable name on their resume. They essentially need to absorb the equity of a legend.
And the veterans still take the fights.
They sign the contracts because they still possess the belief that their fight IQ and their deep well of experience can drown that youthful exuberance. They genuinely believe they can drag the prospect into the third round and break their spirit.
But when the athleticism gap is simply too vast, as we saw in those 20 seconds,
the transfer of power is violently abrupt.
and that brutal transfer of power was really the defining theme of the entire PFL Brussels card. The French MMA scene is experiencing a massive ascendancy right now, and Taylor Double Impact Lapalus put an absolute stamp on the co-main event.
Lapalus looked incredible.
He came in at 25-4 and faced England's Jake Hadley, who is a highly dangerous grappler with a 12-6 record. Lapalus didn't just beat Hadley, he completely dismantled him over 15 minutes. A 30-27 unanimous decision shutout across all three judges' scorecards. He's now on a 6-fight win streak and immediately demanded a title shot.
As he should.
How exactly do you secure a 30-27 shutout against someone as lethal on the ground as Hadley?
A 30-27 shutout in high-level mixed martial arts requires supreme octagon control and the systematic denial of your opponent's primary win conditions.
So keeping him off the mat entirely.
Exactly. Jake Hadley wants to close the distance, initiate grappling sequences, and hunt for submissions. Lapalus understood that the center of the cage was his fortress.
He just anchored himself down.
Yes, he utilized a stinging piston-like jab, not just to score points, but to actively blind Hadley's entries. Every time Hadley lowered his level to attempt a takedown, Lapalus framed off Hadley's shoulders, dug underhooks, and circled off the cage line.
Never letting his back hit the fence.
Never. He used lateral footwork to constantly orbit away from Hadley's power side. By denying the grappling exchanges and dictating the spatial geometry of the cage, Lapalus forced Hadley to fight a long-range kickboxing match.
Which is Hadley's worst nightmare.
Completely antithetical to his game plan. It was a 15-minute demonstration of neutralizing a threat before it could even materialize.
It's the difference between fighting hard and fighting smart. Now, while Lapalus put on a cerebral clinic, the rest of the card was absolute carnage. We might as well call Brussels Head Kick City, because the trauma delivered by the lower extremities was terrifying.
The head kicks were flying everywhere.
First, we had Boris Atangana, another undefeated prospect pushing his record to 9-0. He fought Jared Gooden, a tough veteran with 35 professional fights. Atangana finishes him in 1 minute and 5 seconds of the first round, and it started with a head kick, but the finish was incredibly calculated.
Gooden is a durable, dangerous veteran. He has been in the cage with some of the heaviest hitters in the sport.
He's not an easy guy to put away early.
Not at all. Atangana, much like Habirora, represents this new wave of European strikers who blend dynamic kicking games with high-level boxing fundamentals. Atangana launched a high kick that found its mark and visibly wobbled Gooden's legs.
The chicken dance.
Right, the brain essentially rebooted for a second. But the mark of a truly elite prospect is what happens next. A lesser fighter would have rushed in wildly, throwing looping punches, and potentially gotten caught by a desperate veteran counterstrike.
You see that all the time. Guys get too eager and get knocked out themselves.
Exactly. Atangana did not do that. He used his footwork to methodically cut off Gooden's escape angles, pinning his back against the cage fence. Once Gooden's lateral movement was eliminated, Atangana unleashed heavy, accurate hooks through the guard until the referee was forced to intervene. It was composed violence.
Composed violence is the perfect phrase for it. And then we saw almost the exact same weapon utilized by Asel, the Sultan Ajuj. He improves to 11 tonight by knocking out Kisuke Sasu at 2.22 of the second round.
That was a brilliant setup.
And for context for our listeners, Kisuke Sasu is a former Shudo world champion. Shudo is one of the foundational legacy mixed martial arts promotions in Japan. To be a champion there means you are a highly sophisticated, battle-tested martial artist. And Ajuj just separated him from his consciousness with a head kick.
The knockout sequence from Ajuj was a true masterclass in neurological conditioning.
Neurological conditioning.
Yes. Ajuj is a former 3-time world kickboxing champion, and his pedigree was glaringly obvious. He didn't just throw the head kick blindly, hoping to get lucky. He spent the entire first round and the first 2 minutes of the second round actively punishing Sasu's legs and midsection.
Just tenderizing the body.
He threw stabbing teeps to the stomach and heavy roundhouses to the calves and thighs. He was systematically programming Sasu's brain to react to lower body threats.
So every time Ajuj moves, Sasu thinks low.
Every time Sasu saw Ajuj's hips twitch, his autonomic nervous system forced his hands to drop to parry a body kick or check a leg kick. Once that defensive algorithm was hardwired into Sasu's reactions, Ajuj twitched his hips again, Sasu's hands dropped, and Ajuj whipped the shin high over the guard directly into the jaw. It was a perfectly disguised trap. Sasu's brain was reacting to a body kick while his jaw absorbed a head kick. He was unconscious before his knees even buckled.
That is just the highest level of striking chess imaginable. Now, amidst all these finishes, we also had a fascinating crossover bout that really highlighted the stylistic diversity of the sport right now. Naoki Inoue, a former champion in the massive Japanese promotion Arzen, took on Marceli Alves, who was the 2025 PFL Bantamweight Tournament champion.
A true clash of titans.
And it went all the way to a split decision. Inoue gets the nod, but the scorecards were wild. 29-28, 29-28 for Inoue, and one judge saw it 30-27 for Alves.
When you have scorecards that divergent, it usually points to a fight where both men successfully impose their diametrically opposed styles for different segments of the round.
Because they fight nothing alike.
Right. Inoue is a master of distance. He possesses a significant height and reach advantage for the weight class, and his entire philosophy is built on staying on the outside, utilizing linear kicks and long straight punches to score without being touched.
And Alves is a brawler.
Alves thrives in chaos. He is a pocket brawler who wants to step inside your reach, absorb a shot to give a heavier shot, and turn the bout into a phone booth war. The judges had to decide whether they valued Inoue's clean outside striking or Alves' heavy, damaging forward pressure.
Which is always subjective.
The PFL sources noted that the decision came down to a razor-thin one-punch differential in the deciding rounds. It was a beautiful clash of philosophies.
And the chaos didn't stop there. The prelims were a total conveyor belt of finishes. Gustavo Oliveira locked up a lightning-fast guillotine choke over Beres Adagusel. Movsari Bragimov strangled Shane Campbell with a rear-naked choke. Kamzat Abayev flatlined Luka Poklet in the first round. Adam Miskini edged out Kiwini Lopes in a split decision, and Ashley Reese took a unanimous decision over Rustam Serbiev.
Just a phenomenal night of fights.
But the most jarring moment of the entire Brussels event was the bizarre conclusion between Donaghy Yabena and Joe Schilling. Abina gets the TKO victory in the first round, but only because Schilling explicitly refused to continue fighting after absorbing a foul.
Fouls are always the ugliest part of the sport.
Yeah, they really are.
Whether they are eye pokes, groin strikes, or illegal knees to a grounded opponent, they are the most chaotic variables in combat sports. The physiological reality of a foul is that it instantly shatters the equilibrium of the fight.
Everything resets, but not fairly.
Right. An eye poke can cause corneal abrasions that permanently blur your vision. A severe groin strike causes debilitating abdominal cramping. The rules dictate that a fighter has up to 5 minutes to recover, but often the damage is structural and cannot be shaken off.
So Schilling making the call, just walk away.
Schilling making the unilateral decision to tell the referee he could not continue is highly controversial to segments of the fan base who demand, gladiator-style resilience.
A bleed fan.
Exactly. But ultimately, these athletes have to prioritize their long-term neurological and physical health. If your vision is compromised from a foul, continuing to fight a world-class striker is suicidal.
It's just not worth it.
It is an incredibly unsatisfying conclusion for the audience, but it's a necessary safety valve in the unified rules.
It is a stark reminder of how fragile the entire enterprise is. You can train for 8 weeks, fly across the world, and have the fight end in 2 minutes because of an accidental clash of heads or a stray finger.
It happens all the time.
But the PFL machine doesn't stop. Looking ahead, their schedule is relentless. We have PFL San Diego coming up on June 27th, PFL Austin on July 18th, and PFL DC on July 25th. They are rolling out these massive arena shows at an incredible pace.
A very busy summer for them.
But before we get to the American summer schedule, we have to talk about what is happening literally tomorrow on the Arabian Peninsula. Because while the blood has been mopped up in Brussels, the fight before the fight has already claimed major victims in Dubai. Let's dig into the PFL MENA weigh-ins.
The scale is the great, terrifying equalizer in all of combat sports.
It really is.
It possesses zero empathy. It does not care about your undefeated record. It does not care about your highlight reel knockouts. And it certainly does not care how many tickets you sold. The force of gravity en masse is absolute.
I really want to focus on this because as fans, we obsess over the matchups. We debate the striking metrics, the grappling pedigrees, the cardio. But is the weight cut actually the most dangerous undefeated opponent these athletes face? Because today, at the official weigh-ins for the PFL MENA event at the Coca-Cola Arena in Dubai, the scale literally erased a highly anticipated tournament fight from existence.
Biologically and professionally, the extreme weight cut is absolutely the most dangerous aspect of modern mixed martial arts.
Because of what it does to the organs, right?
Let's look at the cellular reality. To make these contracted weights, fighters spend the final 48 hours utilizing extreme sauna protocols, hot baths, and severe fluid restriction to drain every possible ounce of water from their bodies.
Just wringing themselves out like a sponge.
The blood thickens, making the heart work exponentially harder to pump it. The kidneys are pushed to the brink of acute failure. Most dangerously, the cerebrospinal fluid that acts as a shock absorber for the brain is depleted, making the athlete vastly more susceptible to concussive trauma.
Which is terrifying when you're about to step into a cage to get punched in the head.
It's incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
And professionally, missing weight in a structured tournament format is just apocalyptic.
And that apocalypse hit the lightweight division today. Georges Eid, who is the 2024 PFL MENA lightweight finalist, a guy who went all the way to the end last year, and his opponent, Zakaria Bichi, both missed weight.
A double weight miss.
When one fighter misses weight, the promotion can usually perform triage, right?
Yeah, they negotiate a catch weight, they deduct 20 to 30% of the offending fighter's purse and give it to the opponent, and the tournament bracket survives. But when both fighters fail to hit the contracted limit, the bout is entirely scrapped.
Wait, so what happens to the bracket?
It is a catastrophic logistical failure for the matchmakers. In the PFL's points-based tournament system, a double weight miss means neither fighter earns any points. They are essentially eliminated from the $1 million pathway before throwing a single punch.
So they just go home with nothing.
Exactly. The promotion had to scramble and elevate a reserve bout between Basel Shalan and Abdullah Salim into an official lightweight tournament quarterfinal just to plug the massive hole in the bracket.
It is mind-blowing how fragile the entire multi-million-dollar structure is. A few ounces of retained water can destroy months of promotional planning.
It's house of cards.
But thankfully, the main events managed to hit their marks. The featherweight quarterfinal main event is officially locked in. The UAE's own Mohamed Yahya stepped on the scale at 145.8 pounds. He's making his PFL debut in front of his home crowd, taking on Tunisia's Mehdi Saadi, who weighed in at 145.6.
A great stylistic matchup.
And the co-main event, which is a lightweight quarterfinal, features the undefeated Moroccan prospect Salah Eddine Hamli at 154.8 pounds against the battle-tested Algerian veteran Yailes Giroun at 155.2.
These matchups carry massive geopolitical weight within the sport right now.
Because of all the investment in the region.
Exactly. The MENA region, the Middle East and North Africa, is currently pouring astronomical amounts of capital into combat sports infrastructure. They are building state-of-the-art facilities and actively trying to establish themselves as a global superpower in MMA.
Rivaling North America and Eastern Europe.
Right. For athletes like Yahya and Hamli, this isn't just about advancing in a tournament, it is an audition for the global PFL roster. They are fighting to prove that the regional talent pool in the Middle East is on par with the elites in Las Vegas or Dagestan.
And speaking of the vanguard of that Middle Eastern talent pool, we have to highlight the women's strawweight amateur showcase bout. Zamzam Al Hammadi. She successfully made weight at 113.4 pounds to face Abir Mansour.
Zamzam is a phenomenon, but here is the detail that truly matters. Zamzam is an 18-year-old Emirati prospect, and she is already a decorated champion in both mixed martial arts and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. The UAE has been importing talent for years, but what does a homegrown 18-year-old dual-threat champion signal for the future of the region's combat sports footprint?
It signals the maturation of a multi-decade infrastructural master plan.
Wow, a master plan.
Historically, the United Arab Emirates has been a destination for hosting massive events. They brought the UFC to fight islands during the pandemic. More importantly, they revolutionized global grappling by creating the ADCC, the Abu Dhabi Combat Club.
Which is basically the Olympics of submission grappling.
Widely considered exactly that. They mandated jiu-jitsu in their public school physical education curriculums. What we are witnessing with Zamzam Al Hammadi is the first harvest of that foundational investment.
Because she grew up in that system. Yes. For an 18-year-old Emirati woman to possess elite championship-level skills in both striking and complex submission grappling proves that the grassroots development programs are working. She isn't a novelty act brought in to sell local tickets. She is a highly evolved, modern martial artist produced entirely within the UAE ecosystem.
And the grappling ecosystem that the UAE helped legitimize globally is moving at a terrifying speed itself. We pulled the latest Flow grappling schedule to check the pulse of the submission grappling world, and it is just relentless.
It never stops.
Hazel Butcher-Salazar was just named Prospect of the Month. And if you look at the upcoming calendar, the volume of elite competition is staggering. You have the IBJJF World Championships, the premier tournament for Giga Grappling. You have the Master International.
Massive events.
You have ADCC regional qualifiers in Petropolis, Brazil, and Atlanta, Georgia. You have the Fight to Win Subkumite, which is a professional submission-only showcase format. All of these massive global events are happening within days or weeks of each other.
The sheer density of the current grappling schedule is fundamentally altering how the art evolves.
How so?
Well, a decade ago, an elite grappler might peak their training camp for one or two major international tournaments a year, like the IBJJF World or the ADCC World Championships. Innovation was slow because high-level testing was infrequent.
You'd only see new moves once a year.
Exactly. Today, an athlete like Hazel Butcher-Salazar can compete against world-class black belt opposition almost every single weekend. This constant pressurized crucible acts as an accelerator for technical evolution.
It's like rapid prototyping for martial arts.
Yes. If someone invents a new leg entanglement in a gym in Texas on a Tuesday, it is deployed in a tournament on Saturday, broadcast globally via Flow Grappling, and by the following Wednesday, gyms in Tokyo and London are already drilling the counters to it.
That's insane.
The life cycle of a dominant technique has been compressed from years down to mere weeks.
It is the open source evolution of human combat.
Yeah.
So we've dissected a 44-second biomechanical execution in New York. We've analyzed the crushing weight of legacy and a $100,000 push kick in Bangkok. We've witnessed the brutal changing of the guard with a 20-second knockout of a legend in Belgium. And we've explored the physiological trauma of the scale in Dubai. It's been an incredibly dense, revealing look at the ruthless velocity of martial arts.
It truly has. And examining the sheer geographic spread of the athletes we've discussed today leads me to a final, profound realization.
What's that?
We just analyzed the trajectory of an 18-year-old female prospect from the UAE in Zamzam Al Hammadi. We broke down the immense pressure on a 21-year-old striker from London in Freddie Haggerty. We watched an undefeated 25-year-old from Belgium in Patrick Habirora completely dismantle an American legend. They're all making massive global headlines on the exact same weekend.
It's everywhere.
It forces us to ask, have we officially crossed the threshold into the first truly borderless era of combat sports? For decades, we existed in an era of regional stylistic monopolies.
Like U.S. wrestling or Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Right. If you wanted elite wrestling, you looked to the United States or the Caucasus Mountains. If you wanted elite submission grappling, you looked to Brazil. If you wanted elite kickboxing, you went to Thailand or the Netherlands. But looking at the complete synthesized skill sets of these young prospects from Belgium, China, and the Middle East, it seems those monopolies have permanently collapsed. World-class, championship-level talent is now being forged simultaneously in every corner of the globe.
That's it for this episode of Budocast. Thanks for joining us as we break down the latest in martial arts. We'll be back soon with more news, stories, and insights. Until then, train hard, stay humble,